Hello there. Welcome to Mira Mesa High School. Today we'll be looking at the mind of one of Mira Mesa's most talented students. Phoenix is an intelligent, inquisitive young lady. Let's see what she's thinking.
Man, this class is so boring. This generation's so boring. If it was up to me, I'd go back in time to the progressive era and hang out with the cool people. You know who I'm talking about. The cool people. Yeah, President Theodore Roosevelt and his big ideas. Even as a boy, Roosevelt loved the great outdoors. Throughout his presidency, he protected about 230 million acres of land. He also created and protected several national monuments through the Act for the Preservation of American Antiquities. He also established the U.S. Forest Service, appointing Gifford Pinchot as chief. However, much of the reform happening during Roosevelt's presidency was happening in the cities, namely the industrial cities with a high immigrant population. Many reformers saw political corruption as the reason for enduring poverty in the industrial cities. This is because of political machines, which were political groups controlled by a boss who worked closely with business corporations, accepting their financial cooperation and in return giving them tax breaks. Consequently, this raised taxes for the citizens.
$1 plus taxes is going to be $100.
Political machines worked with the impoverished immigrants, providing them with shelter, job opportunities, and other bribes in exchange for their votes, as seen here. This is something important to remember for later when we get into the temperance movement, because many impoverished people had a lot of problems with substance abuse and alcoholism. Political machines were also able to maintain power because they made their own ballots so that voters didn't really have a choice over who they could vote for. The solutions for limiting their power were the direct primary, the initiative, the referendum, and the recall. A direct primary was a preliminary election that gave all the members of a party the chance to take part in the nomination of a candidate. Before the direct primary, party bosses usually chose their candidate on their own. Now, the direct primary had already been in use before Roosevelt's presidency, but during his time, the U.S. saw the spread of these methods to multiple states. The initiative allowed citizens to propose a new law. Referendum made it so a law could be voted on directly by the people. Recall allowed citizens to remove an elected official from office using a petition. If enough signatures were collected, the official could be removed from office. Working conditions were also a big problem during this time. The working class had to deal with unsanitary and unfair working conditions, cramped living quarters, disease, diarrhea, prejudice, drug abuse, alcoholism, slow bowel movements, lice, STDs, embarrassing middle names, bad smiles, typhus, murders, fires, smelly air, public excrement, lack of lumbo, and overall sense of disparity and depression. The solution was workmen's compensation, which started in Maryland in 1902. Compensation required the government to give payments to workers or their families for disability or death suffered on the job. The system expanded later in 1916 with the official Workmen's Compensation Act, which gave money also to federal employees. And thanks to the successful muckraking photography of Lewis Hine, states passed laws establishing a minimum legal age for working and also a maximum workday. State compulsory school attendance requirements also lowered the number of working children, as well as lowered the crime rate among minors, especially in the cities. The National Child Labor Committee made this reform possible. It was founded in 1904 and worked to limit the hours of children working and also make sure that they stayed in school. As for women in the workplace, the Supreme Court decision Mueller v. Oregon in 1908 limited the working hours for female laundry workers to 10 hours per day. Muckraker Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle with the intention to further reform for working conditions, but the reform that resulted from his book actually had to do with the condition of the food being produced. Due to the public outrage caused by Sinclair's revolting descriptions of the meatpacking industry, Roosevelt responded with the Pure Food and Drug Act and the Meat Inspection Act. Not exactly what he was aiming for, but hey, at least we don't see limbs in our sandwiches anymore.